Good morning, and welcome to the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm Brigida Vieira, a member of this beloved congregation, and I'm joined today by Service Associate Donna Samani. The wonder of technology is Donna is able to participate today in two ways. One, as a member of our fellowship watching, and also pre-recorded. It's been a gift to work with her on this service. The brilliant Tad Coriath has provided us with beautiful music, and our bright tech ushers, Deborah Mensch, Dave Leonard, Bill Beachley, are here to help our online services run smoothly. And I am joined by all of you, for without you, there would be no fellowship. As I say the welcome words today, I invite you to shift into gallery view if you haven't done so already, and scroll through the screen so that you can experience the lovely diversity of this congregation, because without it and without you, there would be no us. You are welcome here today. In all of the beauty of languages, cultures, skin tones, shapes, and sizes that come together in your uniqueness, you are welcome here. In all the ways you experience and express gender, you are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love, you are welcome here. In all the ways you make your living and the places you are from, you are welcome here. Christian, pagan, humanist, Jew, Buddhist, mystic, Muslim, Unitarian, Universalist, with all the traditions that inform your spiritual life, you are welcome here today. No matter how long you are away, nor how soon you will return, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears, you are welcome here. You are invited to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. We welcome you today. I have a couple of announcements this morning. As a reminder, Reverend Lydia has stepped away for a much-needed vacation and study leave until August 10th. And she will mostly be available by text for pastoral care. Following today's service, you have the option to stay in this Zoom room for our coffee hour, or join the School of the Spirit coffee hour that you'll see in the chat now and at the end of the service. If you're new here, we are so glad you're here and hope that even on Zoom, you can still experience the warmth and love of this fellowship. Each Sunday is different here, so please do come back a few times to get to know us. In the chat window, you'll see a link to our first-time visitors page. That page has a link to our visitor information form, which invites you to tell us about yourself and request info about activities. Or you can email your contact info to our office manager, Carol, at officemanager@bvuuf.org. Carol's address is in the chat window as well. And check out our fellowship calendar and Connections Weekly, which lists many opportunities to stay connected. Finally, if you're new to us, we invite you to introduce yourself in the chat. We'd love to know who is among us. Hello, we have Alma Chavez from Intercambio. Bienvenidos. And now to start our time together and mark this time and digital space as sacred, I invite you to light your chalice. Chalices of many kinds are welcome, whether that be a candle, lamp, a thumb perhaps, or a metaphorical flame in your heart. After you light your chalice, we invite you to share in the chat the divine spark your chalice is bringing to our sacred space. If you are bringing love, we invite you to chat, chalice lit in love. If you are entering a need of connection, you could chat, chalice lit for community. We invite you to say these words along with me as I light my chalice. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action.
Now I will invite the sound of the bowl for a second time. Please take this opportunity to relax and settle quietly into your seat. Slowly and gently draw a deep breath, filling first the bottom of your lungs, then the middle portion, then the top of your lungs, and allow this breath to naturally release. Take a couple more breaths like this, slowly and gently, allowing the exhalations to naturally spill out of the lungs. And now I invite you to follow the sound of the bowl into the silence and into the presence of this gathered community. Now I want to share a story with you. As I walk out of my front door, there is the promise of dawn in the eastern sky. At the street, I turn toward that promise. Up the block, past the sleeping neighbors' houses, I cross an empty lot, past the last row of houses at the edge of town, and slip into an open field. Planted in winter wheat last year, harvested in June, the field now rests fallow. The short wheat stubble folds aside under my footfalls as I work my way across the soft, uneven ground, up the hill, toward the brightening eastern horizon. A half-mile away, I see a lone cottonwood tree, standing beside the gravel road toward which I make my way. I'm puffing a little now, with the exertion of walking quickly across the furrows and up the long slope of the field. In a few minutes, I arrive at the intersection of two gravel roads and make my way just a little further east to the ancient tree I call Grandmother Cottonwood. I stop on the road near her. Bringing my hands to Anjali Mudra, I bow deeply at the waist and offer her my greeting. Good morning, Grandmother. It is good to see you again. I push my way through the weeds alongside the road and make my way up to her. I reach both my arms around a small part of her immense circumference and rest my tender cheek on her gnarled trunk. Still embracing her, I gaze upward into her massive spreading branches. They move and wobble with the force of the gentle prairie wind which passes through and among them. I feel in my own body the movement of the dancing branches as it is transmitted downward through Grandmother's trunk, passing the energy of the wind into the earth. I close my eyes and listen, hearing the sound of Grandmother's wobbling, clattering leaves. What might be the message for me in their song today? I turn north now, walking briskly along the road, the crushed gravel crunching brightly under my feet. I push my pace enough that I can feel my heart beating in my chest, and my breath comes in steady, rapid puffs. A mile later, I reach the intersection of another gravel road. I walk straight across this road and down and across the borrow ditch and into an open pasture. There is no fence and no sign, so I consider this to be commons land, land for all of the people, to be walked across freely, which is what I do most days of every week of every year. Walking through the late summer grass, I walk alongside a row of Russian olive trees on my left. The morning sun begins to feel a little too warm, and so I find my way into the shade of the trees as much as is possible. I make my way in this manner through knee-high dry grasses for another half-mile or so, up over a slight hill, until I arrive at a large earthen bank irrigation ditch. It flows across my path from west to east, left to right. Looking west, I see a 50-mile-long stretch of the Front Range Rocky Mountains, their brilliant white glaciers, the source of the water which fills this ditch. Now I turn toward these mountains, walking along the one-lane dirt road beside the ditch, walking upstream. I find myself becoming inwardly quieter as the road winds its way along. The summer is growing late, but there is still some water flowing between the dirt banks. It flows slowly and lazily toward more farmland further east of me. A sense of happiness begins to arise in me as I approach my special place on the bank of the stream. I begin to hear the pleasant sound of water falling from a small dam. Arriving at the dam, I work my way cautiously down the short, steep bank and closer to the falling water. Over time, I've gathered a few boards and rocks and things I found along my path and have made for myself here a small level seat of sorts. I sit on the ground on my handmade seat with legs crossed facing the waterfall. Settling into my seat, I drop into a quiet state of mind, the sound of running water a steady accompaniment. I hear the water and the birds and the breeze whispering in the trees some distance behind me. I sit quietly in this way for an uncertain amount of time, my mind still and collected and connected with the flow of my breathing. Eventually, I'm aroused by the growing heat of the summer day, the sun now beating down on the right side of my body. I open my eyes and slowly reorient myself to where I am and what I see and hear. The morning is beginning to pass, and I still have a day's work ahead of me. I clamber up the bank, back to the road, and begin the second half of my morning walk. Above the dam, the stream is now deeper, running 6 feet deep and 10 feet wide between the earthen banks. I'm practicing slow walking meditation now as I move down the road alongside the quietly flowing water. My awareness is fully connected to my slow, rhythmic breathing and the sensations of legs moving and feet touching earth, one step at a time. I stop. I stop walking and turn toward the flowing water, feeling drawn into the immense power of its volume, its depth and breadth. Suddenly, a gust of wind passes through, violently shaking and rattling the dry grasses and weeds at my feet. In that unexpected blast of wind, my world is suddenly and utterly swept away. Mind is completely swept away. There remains not a trace or even a wisp of a thought or image or idea of any kind. There is no longer any this, nor any that. No here, no there. There's only a palpable, pervading silence, stillness, timelessness, stretching inwardly and outwardly, boundlessly in all directions. It is the silent stillness which encompasses and which is the source of it all. All forms are swept away. Now there is only process, a continuous unfolding, an endless coming into and going out of existence of the appearances of all so-called forms. Nothing standing still. In this silence, in this stillness, there is no I or me or mine. I have disappeared. There's only a wordless knowing, a knowing that this is all of everything. Always has it been so. Always shall it be. Always, ever is, just now. There's no one knowing all these things. There's only the knowing itself. And yet there is a sense of being embraced by and enfolded by this silent stillness. Like a babe in a swaddling blanket, there's a feeling of safety, of ease, and of a deep peace. A subtle desire to hold on to this very pleasant experience begins to arise, and so the experience begins to fade. I'm aware of a body, my body, standing at the side of a ditch, still infused with this stillness, this silence. The wind and the sunlight and the sounds of the day pass through me undisturbed. I feel porous, less than solid, like cheesecloth or a fisherman's net. And now I recognize what has happened. And I remember that I have dropped into this sort of experience before. Though seldom visited, this is somewhat familiar territory. My body begins to solidify now, and my mind begins to operate in its more normal way. My perceptions of the world, though forever changed by my experience today, again begin to recognize familiar features. I'm coming back. I feel blessed and I feel renewed. With deep gratitude, I turn and walk along the road toward home and toward the day's work which lies ahead.
Now, let's soften into the mystery and wonder that surrounds us all and experience one way to renew our spirits with some music. So, direct experience. Direct experience is one of the primary sources Unitarian Universalists identify as a backbone of our faith. As a denomination, our living tradition draws from many sources, including our first source, which goes like this. Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces that create and uphold life. That sounds so lovely. But where did this come from? And what on earth does it actually mean? For UUs, our direct experience, which allows us to connect to intuition and insight, and the reminder that we are part of something larger beyond ourselves, is very important to us. These ideas about how we practice our faith go back to our American transcendentalist ancestors in the first half of the 19th century. At that time, a group of writers, ministers, educators, and reformers felt that the Unitarian faith was too rational and de-emphasized emotion too much. This group also believed that the deepest religious and moral truths could only be known intuitively by faculties that transcend the senses. Out of these convictions, a new movement in early Unitarianism emerged, called Transcendentalism. Transcendentalists, they had bold ideas that each person has an original relationship to the universe and that human beings contain within themselves a mysterious internal principle that guides us toward truth. The transcendentalist desires to live with a greater spiritual intensity and depth, one that renews the spirit and upholds life, rooted in direct experience, is only one story of our UU history. And today, scientists have begun to examine types of transcendental experiences, and they found some common characteristics. Experiences of transcendence are ones that embody a sense of belonging and connectedness with others and with all of creation. They also alter one's normal sense of space and time, and many of them are ones that are experiences that have both a dissolution of the self and also an expansion outward toward a sense of unity with all there is. Such experiences also often result in a change in perspective or behavior afterwards. These characteristics, to me, point very beautifully to the vivid experience Donna shared in the opening words. So, just as I started to wrap my arms around this first source, I could not help but notice how transcendentless my life has recently become. My mundane days of social distancing and pandemic routine have really been absent of that mystery and wonder. So while I thought my reflection today was going to be about our first source and where transcendentalist experiences come from and what they mean and why they matter, I'm actually finding myself wanting to ask something else. What happens when we lose our sense of mystery and wonder that is a part of our spiritual journeys? Sometimes the world we see is a distressed one, sunk in fear and rattled by pain in a very uncertain time. And I can hear myself and our community asking what to do and where to go when we ourselves and the world around us struggles to find the holiness or the wholeness of our humanity. It is also very possible that some of us has ceased to believe that there is a bigger mystery and a deeper meaning to all that matters. Some of us may be questioning if a larger love force exists and if that force even matters. So where do we go in the midst of loss, uncertainty, rage, grief, and despair? We can come here, my beloved friends. We can come here to our beloved community, because our community is a place where it is okay to lose a sense of mystery and wonder. Ours is a place that is not just full of faith and confidence, but also a place full of doubt and unsureness. A place that both touches wonder and yearns to touch wonder. So I've discovered that my first source spiritual practice is not always about having direct experiences with the divine and sharing them with our beautiful fellowship. Perhaps this first source of ours is large enough to include the moments of our lives when we each directly examine our experiences and receive whatever it is that sustains us. May we be reminded that our faith and our community is a place where hope, a renewable resource, can rise above and transcend what we experience today.
Dear friends, I'd like to share 2 short poems with you today. This is Lost by David Wagner. Stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers, I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying here. No 2 trees are the same to raven. No 2 branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. And now this from Mary Oliver. Sleeping in the forest. I thought the earth remembered me. She took me back so tenderly, arranging her skirts, her pockets full of lichens and seeds. I slept as never before, a stone on the riverbed. Nothing between me and the white fire of the stars, but my thoughts. And they floated light as moths among the branches of the perfect trees. All night I heard the small kingdoms breathing around me, the insects, and the birds who do the work after darkness. All night I rose and fell as if in water, grappling with a luminous doom. By morning I had vanished at least a dozen times into something better.
Each week, we remind ourselves of the abundance of our lives in this community by giving half our plate away to those organizations that share our values. Today, we focus on our second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and offer our plate to Intercambio, nominated by Diane Ladd. Intercambio is a nonprofit organization providing cultural integration and English classes to immigrants in Boulder County. The COVID-19 outbreak has disproportionately affected Hispanic and Latinx communities. Intercambio has a unique position in Boulder County as a trusted resource for the immigrant community. And over the last 19 years, they have taught English to over 10,000 immigrants and many consider the nonprofit to be their family. Since the pandemic started, this organization has been providing information and resources to the immigrant community, many of whom were among the first to lose their jobs, are the least connected to safety nets in the community, and often struggle with isolation. Throughout this crisis, Intercambio has been actively referring immigrants to resources, as well as unlocking new skills for English learners and their teachers in a time when it is critically important to be able to communicate needs. As the virtual plate passes, please give generously as you are able. And as our musical reflection begins, we invite you to reflect about the sense of wonder we all share. Please write into the chat what's connecting you to wonder and mystery today. For the work of this fellowship, bringing love, reason, compassion, and justice to this world, and to Intercambio, offering connection and community, we dedicate our offerings.
And now we sing. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
And now let's sing together. We encourage you to join in voice or in spirit at home with Emily Jaworski in singing the hymn, Voice Still and Small. And now, I invite us into our time of community connection, a time of sacred sharing joys and concerns. Deborah will remind you how to let us know if you'd like to share today. When you do, whether by voice or by chat, please tell us your name and where you live, and briefly let us know what is in your heart today. And I will put a stone in our sacred waters on your behalf. And I'm now adding one more stone for any joy or concern still in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, knowing that even in this silence, we are still bound together in this community and this web of life. In these times of community, let us reach out to those in grief and pain. May we be wrapped in comfort, warmed by connection, and reminded that we are not alone in this world. And in these times of togetherness, let us celebrate with those who are in joy, having birthdays, those in good or recovering health, and in wonder. May we be inspired to honor and extend the beauty we find in this world. May it be so. Amen. Now, please join me in singing We Give Thanks.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here, and those far away, for this time we share, with love and care, Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here, and those far away, for this time we share, with love and care, Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
I now invite you to join me in saying our words to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. Let us go forth and embrace the unknown, to hold the mystery and to let ourselves be held by it, to connect with the wonder and the awe of the unity of life, and welcome the curiosity that leads to searching. May we meet ourselves along the way and love ourselves unapologetically. Go in wonder.